On average, over the last 5 years, the funding has grown about 30% annually. We think that's going to continue over the next 5 years. And at some point, there'll be over $6 billion invested in these startup companies. There's a couple reasons why we think that's going to happen. The first thing is, if you look at the types of products and services that these healthcare startup companies have to offer, no one has truly figured it out. Okay? Most of these companies are what we call digital companies. When we talk about digital companies, it has one of a couple components. One is, do they offer some sort of product or service that has a social aspect to it, being able to interact with people without being face-to-face? Does their product or service have some sort of mobile component to it, right? Versus having to go in front of the computer, how do you leverage your cell phone? Does it have some sort of analytics component where you actually take data, turn it into information, and transform that into knowledge in terms of what people can use? Does it have some sort of cloud component? The whole idea where you don't have to store all that data within your personal device. You can access that data from somewhere else. And then finally, sensors. Does it have some sort of ability for that device to sense where you are, what you're doing? That's how we define digital, and a lot of these startup companies have one or two aspects of that. If you think about in the future, in order for a product or service to truly differentiate themselves and make an impact, we think that they're going to have to leverage all of those components of digital. And so a great analog is the driverless car. The driverless car is going to make over $1 trillion of impact onto our economy. If you think about fuel savings, if you think about less car accidents, if you think about less people going to the hospital for injuries, right? The driverless car is a great example that leverages all of those components I talked about. What we're trying to figure out is who's going to come up with the driverless car for healthcare. So that's one of the reasons why we think healthcare investment funding is going to increase for these startup companies. The other reason is they're started by these 23 and 24-year-olds that are not only motivated by financial compensation. If you look at this generation of millennials, they volunteer more than any other generation. And so the reason why they're starting these startup companies is they're really trying to figure out, how do I take care of mom and dad that live in a different state, and I want to make sure that they're okay? Can I create a product that monitors their health metrics? Can I create a product where my mom can easily interact with her physician who lives 5 miles away? And so the social motivation is another reason why we think the funding is going to increase. And then the final reason is there's external disruptors coming into the marketplace. If you look at the Fortune 50 companies, more than half of them are new entrants into healthcare. So we're talking about high-tech companies. We're talking about retail companies. We're talking about car companies. Ford is experimenting with using your steering wheel, and as you grab your steering wheel, it measures certain health monitors through your hand for care management. Everyone realized there's a lot of opportunity with healthcare, so how do we capitalize on that? And so for all those reasons, we see the investment in these healthcare startup companies increasing over the next 5 years.